Welcome everybody to another talk on Nature's Wellness Symphony. It's been a while since we've released anything, so I'm really excited to get back to this series of talks. Denise and I have taken a couple of months break just because life happens. So my name is Tammy Bruni and my platform is Lines Arise, and Denise is from Fontes Wellness. So Denise has got an awesome wellness range, which I think she'll give us just a short blurb as a reminder to those of you that are new or those that haven't listened to us for a while. And I just want to say that Denise really has an awesome range of products, and that's not because we're doing online marketing, but that is because I've personally used her products, and I recently had the opportunity to be back home in South Africa. Denise is in Barrydale in the beautiful Cape, Western Cape. And Denise was kind enough to send me a care package again of her products to try some new ones, and I was so blown away. And there's a product that she's got that I love, and that's her glow powder. It's a cleansing powder. And I just love it because it cleanses your skin so nicely, and it just does that daily exfoliation that's really nice. And whenever I use that, my skin just looks so clear. And then also your range of serums are really awesome. And I know I used one of your creams before, your serums before, and I mentioned that it was a little bit oily for my skin, yeah, because it's very warm in the UAE, but it's also very dry inside with the air conditioners. And so you gave me something to try, a lotion, and I love it. It's just so nice on my skin. It smells so nice. I'm not sure what it's called because it came in a little pot for me to try, and it was just incredible. So I really just want to give a shout out for Denise for her products. They are legit. They are awesome. They're beautifully packaged. There's a beautiful meaning behind them. And I know soon we will release a talk, Denise, specifically around what you do. But maybe just as you come in, just shortly, just tell them about your range and what products you have, and then we can start our talk. So today we're going to be talking about the endocrine system. We've been working our way through the 12 systems in the body. We've done 7 episodes already. If you want to go back onto YouTube to recap, today is episode 8. So we're almost at the end of our series, but not at the end of our talks. So that's awesome. So Denise, I'm just going to give over to you to give us just a short description of what you do, and then we'll come back to the endocrine system.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that amazing introduction. I am really glad that you love the product. It's, they always say if you're a small, a business owner and you're in the growing phase, you do a little dance, and it's one of those things that just makes my heart leap with joy to know that somebody is enjoying it and gets a lot of satisfaction out of the experience. So thank you so much for that. And that little container you got is a new product that I will launch in the future sometime. Doesn't have a specific date, but it's more for that type of climate that you are in. It's more humid climate, because the Tranquility Press serum is more for a dry climate and works really, really well in South African environments. But when you like coastal regions where it's more humid, the skin wants something else. So I'm glad that you like that. So I'm Denise Bierman. I am the founder of Fontes Wellness, and under the umbrella of Fontes Wellness is Fontes Organic Skin Food, soon to be launched Fontes Holistic Healing Essentials. That is more your spa type of product, which you can also use at home. And then Sozo Natural, which is the wordplay on so good, but Sozo also means healing. And that is more for family well-being and everyday use at home. I believe how the more you layer with certain oils, it affects your immune system in the long run, and it builds it up over time without you focusing on, oh, I'm doing this, or I must remember to do that. It just forms part of life and it builds your immune system, but it has a foundation of helping you deal with fear, anxiety, and stress, and bringing you into peace or love. Every range has something different. So, but that is something maybe for a later conversation. So today is
yeah. So I just want to add that what actually brought us together was our talks beforehand on trauma and how trauma affects our bodies, and how we're trying to move away from the medical solution to things, to more natural ways, to God-given ways, hence nature's wellness symphony, because there's so much in nature that God has actually provided for us for our healing. And we know that chemicals, everything that they're putting in our food, all of this stuff compromises our system. So getting to a place of wellness and wholeness is a process, because it's not easy to start incorporating all these natural methods into our lifestyle. But if we every day can just consistently make those small changes, it goes a long way towards healing our bodies, because our bodies are so amazing, right? They have that ability. If we're treating them well and we're looking after them, then our bodies can actually heal. So God's just created us so awesomely. And so your I know your trauma range and those things are really awesome, and like that tickles me as well, because I know the effect of trauma on the body. I know what it does. And, you know, like we were just talking before the time, is stress is probably one of the major causes of sickness and disease, you know, in our bodies. And it's not just, you know, emotional stress or physical stress. It's also environmental stress. You know, it's the stuff that's in our environment that places stress on our bodies. And so we really need to just find that place where we can just stay in peace, because that's so important for the wellness of our bodies. But we will get there. So I just want to introduce the topic of the endocrine system. And I'm not the expert, so I'm just going to be giving you some background.
I'm not either, but we're going to do our best.
But I can give you information because it's free. So the endocrine system is a network of glands and organs that produce, store, and secrete hormones. And we know how important these are, right? Because our hormones regulate various bodily functions. It's involved in our metabolism, our growth, our development, tissue function, and our mood. Most importantly for ladies, our mood. And we know how stress can impact that. So just some of the primary components of the endocrine system is we have major glands and organs that's part of that. So it's the hypothalamus that links the nervous system to the endocrine system via the pituitary gland. And it also regulates many of our bodily functions, our temperature, our hunger, our thirst, and controls the release of hormones from the pituitary gland. Then the pituitary gland we look at as the master gland, right? It's located at the base of the brain, and it's divided into anterior and posterior pituitary, and that secretes hormones that regulate the other endocrine glands. And then the various physiological processes, including our hormones, the various types of hormones. So then the thyroid is located in the neck. That's also linked to it. That also helps with the regulation of our metabolism, our energy production, growth and development. And then it also helps to regulate calcium levels in our blood. So we also look at the parathyroid glands, small glands located behind the thyroid gland, and they also regulate calcium and phosphate levels in the blood and the bones. So we can really see how important the endocrine system is. And then we've got the adrenal glands located on top of the kidneys that are also divided into the adrenal cortex, adrenal medulla, and they produce cortisoids, cortisol and aldosterone, which regulates metabolism, immune response, and electrolyte balance. And then we've also got the adrenal medulla produces like adrenaline, noradrenaline that helps the body respond to stress. So we can imagine that if our adrenals are compromised, we are not going to be able to manage stress very well. Then we've also got the pancreas that's affected, that produces insulin and glycogen, and it regulates our blood sugar. We've got the pineal gland that produces melatonin, that regulates our sleep-wake cycles. And then we've also got the gonads, the ovaries and the testes that are affected, right? So for the woman, it produces estrogen and progesterone. We know that regulates our cycles, our reproduction, and our secondary sexual characteristics. And then the testes in the male, which is testosterone, sperm production, and also the sexual characteristics. And then the thymus gland, which is located in the upper chest. And it plays a role in the development of the immune system by producing thymosin, which stimulates the development of T cells. And we know how important T cells are to our body as well. And then there are various endocrine tissues, adipose tissues, gastrointestinal tract tissue, heart tissue, kidneys. So it really has a very wide functioning that is so important to our bodies. And each obviously plays a very important role in balancing our system, just keeping our system balanced, and so that we can actually operate efficiently. So Denise, I'm going to give over to you, and you can share as well on the endocrine system.
Okay.
After my science lesson, I don't know if it's a science, no, it's actually a biology lesson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to know these things because we don't really think about them on a regular basis. And what is hormones and what is this? So just having a picture painted, for me, it really helps. But you've done an amazing job to list, basically, you've listed everything. I just want to add one or two things. For the pineal gland, for instance, there's what God gave us in nature called free medicine. And if you look at the pineal gland, it's triggered by the photoreceptors in your eyes. And there's this tradition or this thing that people do, which at first I found it's very strange, but there's something to it because it's a lost thing that we don't do. When they go out in the mornings, you know, the sun in the morning is different to when to a bit later in the morning. It's not that strong light, it's a gentler light. But if you look at it with your eyes closed, you'll if you look at it and it shines here on your face area, you'll feel it here after a while. But if you close your eyes, it's usually black, like a blackish color. But if you look at the sun like that, it becomes red. It reminds of the blood. It becomes red. And it's that secretion when it becomes red that produces the melatonin that you need for tonight's sleep.
Wow, that's fascinating.
We do chase it away by screen time and all of that. But that together with grounding, meaning having your feet on the grass, just looking at the sun and getting that free medicine is something that everybody has access to. And if you start your way grounding a bit, doing that, try it. It does affect something. God created the sun, the earth, the grounding. It's free medicine that's out there for everyone to try. And it does make a difference in your life. It's something small. And in our rushed lives, we don't get to it. But at least over a weekend, you can at least try something like that and see how it affects your life. It's a nice feeling. I can't explain it when you do that. It's just comforting. So yeah, just something to add to that adrenal discussion.
It's so important to our nervous systems. We need to do that.
Yes.
So I remember when I was in South Africa now recently, just spending time with my mom and just every day going out and sitting on the grass for 20 minutes, just putting my feet, because where I live, it's sand. This is just sand.
Yeah.
It's not the same, right? And so I just I so thoroughly enjoyed just every day going out and sitting in the grass, putting my feet, actually just lying there and feeling the earth beneath me. And then I was dragging my mom out with me. Come on, we're going to go ground. And, you know, you don't actually realize how important that is for your body. You know, and I realized the impact of that on my body because when I was in South Africa, I also went to do some of the testing. I sat on the skio machine to just check how's my body doing. And my adrenals were so low, like it was not in a good space. And then you actually realize, because you're so busy running through life, and you're tired and you're exhausted and you're burnt out. But when you actually do tests like that, or like these assessments that they do, you realize what bad shape you're in, and you don't realize how much stress that you've been under, and you haven't been taking time out to de-stress. You know, having a good bath time routine, you know, where you just relax in the warm water, going outside, spending time in nature, feeling the sun, like you said. Now, it's so important for our well-being.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And it's small practice. It's small little things that you can bring in. And if you don't do it every day, do it when you can. It's just good for your system. So you mentioned the areas that the glands regulate. It's the development of the brain as well, the development of the nervous system, the sleep and the reproductive that you mentioned. And then stress and infection and changes in blood fluid, even your electrolyte balance. So that comes in with drinking water and adding the salt to it, like electrolyte type salts, like your Kalahari desert salts or Himalayan or even the Celtic sea salt. That's part of your electrolyte balance. If that is out, then it influences your hormones, or the hormone levels. And they are chemical messengers. They affect specific target cells to induce a specific response. So if you look at food gives our body a message. Because our body is a chemistry lab. And it's not a bank account. And, you know, you reach like our age, and you realize, oh my goodness, I missed a few things because now I'm struggling with stuff because I used my body as a bank account. And part of that bank account is when we go through stresses and we don't know what to do with it, our body stores it. And you look at your body and you think, what on earth happened here? It's that midline got to. And it's our bodies protecting us from harm because we don't know how to deal with stuff, and it's storing it. I mean, you get to that point where we can say to our body, you know what, I love you and I'm grateful for what you're doing for me. And when you feel safe enough, you can release that. But then we need to get to an emotional state where our body feels, okay, you know what, it's safe. It goes back to that conversation we had a while ago about obese people losing weight up till a certain point, and then at that clinic, and then they stop because toxins get released and they get into a place where they feel unsafe because of sexual abuse when they were younger. It's that same concept that goes through to the older age, you know, the more mature age that we get to. And the endocrine system plays such a massive role in that whole setup, because it balances everything with the hormones. And stresses and unresolved things and not loving ourselves, that's a massive stressor for our bodies. Rejecting our body, I mean, if we reject our bodies, it's going to react. What we think about, 3 days later it reflects on your skin. Those same emotions is energy that gets trapped in the cells. If we don't deal with those emotions, our body renews and it's brand new every 7 years. But we are not looking like brand new people. If we age, it's because of those emotions that are trapped everywhere in the body that is now included in the reproducing. So it's the things we are thinking about the stresses that we don't deal with. And the endocrine system, I think, is just part of that whole picture that suffers. And then we get adrenal fatigue or depression or hypothyroidism or prostatitis or weight gain, because the endocrine system plays a big role in weight management. Pancreas, adrenals, ovaries, your mental well-being, the thyroid, all of those are connected to weight. But then we have so many endocrine disruptors that we are exposed to, about 200 toxins we are exposed to every day, or that we put on our bodies. So we put a lot of rubbish in, and then we're unhappy when we get to a certain age that our body is just not doing what we want it to do, and then we hate it on top of it. But it's an amazing chemical factory that's there to serve us. And if we can have better insight of what it's about, more than just the physical, then I think we will be in a better space. There's a lot of things I think we miss because we just look at the medical side of things.
You know, you're triggering something now that I think I listened to a podcast. It must have been a podcast where I read he was also talking about the body, and you mentioned just now the salt in the water, right? That it helps with the electrolytes in our body. And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not saying this is the truth, maybe you can help me there, but our body, right, we know our body's an electrical circuit. And if I can remember from this talk that we need electrolytes for that circuit to function properly in our body, right? Because so the Holy Spirit showed me this while I was developing my trauma manual. I just one day I had this sense in my spirit about, you know, this circuit that we have between spirit, you know, it's spirit, soul, body, like this. But the main source of that circuit is God or the Holy Spirit, who is the charge to that circuit, right? So if we are connected, we need to be connected to the Holy Spirit so that there's a flow through, right? So if we think of our body, if there's blockages in our cells or anywhere in our system, there's not going to be a flow through of the good stuff. So I remember doing a talk as well on the essential oils, on how, you know, our cells are, and the center of the cell is where the DNA sits, but on the outer side of the cell is like a gate. But when we've had a lot of junk pile up, environmental stress, stuff we're eating, stuff we're putting on our bodies, it blocks that pathway, and the cell can't open to receive that. I'm just putting it really simply to get deeper into where it needs to be. Right. So it's the same with our system, you know, with the Holy Spirit. When we've got trauma, when we've got all these things that are blocking that circuit, it's almost like we have a broken circuit, a disrupted circuit, and we're losing power along the way. So now we're putting all this good stuff into our bodies, but because our cells are compromised, we're not seeing the full results of what we need to see. So it's really that healing of the body is a process of eliminating what we need to eliminate so that we can function better and function on a higher level as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's just, you know, if you think about how the endocrine system interacts with our nervous system, right? It's with the neurotransmitters. And you and I were talking earlier, you know, about like the brain needs the myelin sheath that covers the neuron so that it can transmit messages. The synapses have to connect. They got to wire and fire, right? But if that myelin sheath breaks down, it disrupts the messages that are being sent, right? So it's almost like with this endocrine system, if there's a dysfunction in it, we're going to have a dysfunction in those messages that need to go through to the different systems of the body and the cells of the body for the healing process.
And I want to tie into that, because from two trusted sources. I heard something that piqued my ear, because for me, menopause, I don't think it's what we've been told. There's something to menopause, and I don't have all the keys in the whole mystery, but there's stuff there that we're not being told. And just piling on meds is just causing more problems than it's solving. That's what I see. And I'm in that space of my life trying to navigate what the world looks like. And yeah, everything to do with that. But what is very interesting is this person said she listened to a teaching that part of menopause is when the walls of the endocrine system begins to collapse. And that touches on what you said earlier about the myelin sheath. Dementia kicks in around 70s. There's an emotional, spiritual part when the walls, the walls that protect you from the traumas that you don't deal with, they collapse. But part of that collapse is also the medicine you take, because it breaks down the myelin sheath for what we've taken throughout our whole lifetime. So that also contributes to the dementia, arthritis type stuff. And there's something similar going on with menopause. And it's to understand what my ears pick that up. There's a key that we need to understand. What are those walls? What's causing the walls to collapse, and what can we do differently?
Yeah, so it's almost like we need to, so by the time we hit menopause and we haven't actually looked after ourselves the way we're supposed to, it's almost like it's too late, because there's already been a breakdown or a collapse in those walls, right? But I think if we come back to the spiritual circuit, how our system can break down if there isn't that flow through. Our spiritual system, our connection to God, and then our physical system and our emotional system linked to the body and linked to the soul, right? But look, menopause is a natural part of the aging process, right? It's going to happen in our body. It's part of that. But there are a lot of natural ways to also manage that. The hot flushes, the mood swings, all of the stuff that comes with that, right? And I think us as women that carry so much stress, we carry a lot more stress because of all our roles that I'm not saying the men don't carry stress, but we do carry a lot of responsibilities, being the nurturers, being the carers, running homes, running businesses, like the Proverbs 31 woman. It makes me wonder, maybe this is some research we can do, is menopause coming on quicker than what it used to because of the stresses that we're facing? Because things are breaking down a lot quicker than what they used to, because of not only our own physical, emotional stress, but the environmental factors as well.
Yeah, and definitely it's that, but it's also the food. I think there's a series on Netflix. I haven't looked at it, but it's caught my eyes a few times about how our food is poisoning us. It's that plus what we eat. Because in Eastern countries, I'm reminded by it now, and I can't tell you which country now. I'll have to look again. The women do not go through menopause, but they eat differently. They have a cleaner diet than we have. They don't really know what it is. So we are doing something very wrong on this side of the world.
So what are we doing to compromise our endocrine system? Because of that's so closely tied to everything: the nervous system, immune system, reproductive system, digestive, cardiovascular, all of those things. It's connected to all of that. So kind of what I'm hearing you say is that if we take better care of what we're eating, what we're putting in our bodies, we're going to actually prolong that process, that we don't go through menopause, that we don't struggle in those areas. And I actually know a lot of women that are in menopause that don't use anything for it, and they cope with it. there's mild symptoms of maybe, I've got a little bit of a hot flush, but it's not bad. It's not affecting my moods. It's not affecting anything. So maybe it warrants to do a bit of research into that. Why are some people more affected than others? I would say maybe people that have been under more stress, maybe suffered a lot of trauma, go through those things and find it a lot harder to cope. Just like, we can't cope sometimes on a day-to-day basis if we traumatize, if we carrying stress and tension. A little thing that we'd normally just, it's okay, we collapse over it because we just not feeling great within our bodies. Our hormones are all over the show. And so this really does warrant our attention,
Yeah, and I think it's that whole thing is we treating our bodies as a bank account and not a chemistry lab. I think that is interesting.
My
I'm
Zoom,
seeing that sign.
I don't know. I need to figure out why it does that. I just have to.
We got the thumbs up.
Yes, so obviously, thumbs up, Denise.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something that we need to look at. And obviously things like the leaky gut affects everything, the whole body. And we hear it and it's a buzzword, but how do you really solve that problem too? Because it does affect the whole body. Yeah, it affects how everything works if it's not really looked after. Another thing somebody said is maybe hot flashes is we get hot flashes because we suppress the blissful moments in our lives. We don't truly enjoy joy, or we don't have them, or the little we have, we feel like we're not allowed to have them, so we don't thoroughly just roll into, like a dog would roll in the grass. We don't do that because we don't maybe deserve joy. And that could also be part of the different traumas that we've been through. And maybe that's our body's way of saying, just I need to get some heat out. I need to get some of this out, which you didn't want me to do earlier. It just forces something on you.
Yeah, James Friesen's life model looks at how in childhood, when there's been trauma, because a child's natural ability to experience joy, I mean, you've seen a kid, they just can be so happy and dancing around and so happy to see people and happy for new experiences. They're just so excited, and life happens and it kind of extinguishes that childhood joy within us. So his model looks at how do we get from that place back to joy camp? How do we get back to that place of joy where we actually thriving in the moment, and we have to just think about, the word in all of this as well, where the joy of the Lord is our strength. What do we joy in? What do we rejoice in? Give thanks, versus looking at all the bad things that are going on in our life, and instead of focusing on what are some of the joyful moments. And then, like you said, when we've had this pattern of not having joy, and part of not having joy is not experiencing others experiencing you joyfully. Like a parent that must lavish joy on you and they're so happy to see you and you made a fuss of. As a child, that's immensely important.
Yeah.
That your caregiver, that person is happy to see you. And so you're going to gauge your worth on, are they happy to see me? And am I allowed to be happy? Am I allowed to experience joy? Am I... and so I'll just give a quick example. When I was a little girl, now time's almost up, but I was thinking about this the other day, is as a child, I don't remember a lot of joyful moments. I can remember some joyful moments, but as a child, I think I was more melancholic. I spent a lot of time on my own. just because I just wasn't in an environment where I felt that joy. Okay. And I remember going to a children's party, and it's funny, it's not a, it's a memory that's always stood out in my mind, where the father of the child whose birthday party it was putting the kids on his shoulder and then running in the garden with them. And that was quite a foreign thing for me, because I had never really experienced, or can't remember experiencing, that rough housing that you have with a father, where they play with you and you know, I don't remember and recall that. And that is so necessary for part of our development, that rough housing as well. And I remember this distinct feeling within me, just laughing and having so much fun on this man's shoulders, but at the same time not feeling worthy of it, of feeling strange in that intense. Because I can, even today as a teacher, I remember the joy. You know how children just laugh because they can't help it, like, you know, when you swing them like that as well with their arms, it hurts, but it's just so much
more.
Yes, but it was that feeling. But I remember at the same time feeling I'm not worthy of this joy that I'm feeling. And I actually felt embarrassed inside. And that's a perfect example of not knowing how to savor joy, or those joys. So now you become an adult, and it's very hard for you to find joy in everyday moments. And you're looking for, you want to experience that excitement of something, but it's so hard. It's suppressed. And that is sad, because we need that, right? We do.
We absolutely do.
In our lives. Yeah, for ourselves, for our body, we need that to thrive and to function.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm also reminded the whole time, we grew up in a culture where children are what? Seen but not heard.
Yeah, you see.
Isn't that also just suppressing joy? Because a child is a very noisy.
Yeah, it's social repression.
Noisy being.
What they call it. Yeah, we socially repressed. I think there was an era that actually grew up like that. Don't think, don't speak, don't sense, don't move. See, Zoom's agreeing with me again. You know, and we grow up with that, and we internalize it, and then we find it very hard as adults to move forward, to do what we need to do.
So that thing is very, very real. I can attest to that, because we've had that conversation. Definitely, it is so real. You cannot believe that something as simple as that keeps you from getting to where you need to go.
So, you know, if we look at, again, just the endocrine system, you know, and it comes down to the same conversation every time, right? Is how do we balance the endocrine system? And just from maybe you'll give us some practical pointers, but from a spiritual perspective, is, you know, Jesus says that he gives us peace, right? Not as the world gives it, but it's peace. And he gives us peace that surpasses all understanding. Isaiah 26 verse 3 says that, if, you know, I will keep in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on me.
Yes.
So why is it so hard for us to enter that peace? Why is it so hard for us to find that place of rest? And I think that's a very big key to the health and healing of our system, is the joy and the peace and love, embracing his love. I mean, you spoke earlier, you know, about the love part as well. And I was having a conversation with somebody this morning in a meeting that I had, and we were just speaking about when we're going through hard times. Jesus went through hard times. Jesus must have suffered adrenal fatigue as well, because of people were always wanting him around, like they wanted to be with him. They followed him around, you know, he'd cross the sea on the boat, and he'd get to the other side, and he has this crowd of people. So he was always on the go, but there were times where he separated himself to rest. And so this is one thing that the Holy Spirit spoke to me about, is we go through hard times and we feel like we just cannot get through it. And he gives us the grace for that. But the one thing Jesus did was he always stayed close to his Father. He always separated himself to be with his Father. And I think that is something we also need to remember for our bodies, is we need rest, we need refreshing. So on a spiritual level is how often are we separating ourselves to spend time with our Father, to spend time with where our rest and our peace is. Instead of being overwhelmed, just move into that space of, here I am, Holy Spirit, I need you, I need your rest. Right? It's so important.
No, it absolutely is. But as we've mentioned before, if you come from a trauma background, then God the Father is a scary concept. And if you come through a religious system, then Jesus and his world is just very foreign. Jesus knew how to get to the Father. He could see what the Father does and then do it. Do you know how long I'm trying to break through on just doing that, seeing and doing? But there's so many barriers. It's the religious system. It's overcoming the fact that God the Father is not a taskmaster, and that it's safe enough to approach him, and we will survive when we do that, and understanding that world. And I'm getting an understanding today much better than I did when I was younger, why Jesus was so angry with the Pharisees. He said, you don't want to go in, but you keep them that want to go in out. And this whole religious system that we grew up in did a very good job at programming us to not be able to go in. And it's hard to break through that. It's intentional work to do that, and not to say, I'm giving up. And I think that's part of all the stresses. If we break through, we get moments of breakthrough, and we're in and we see something and experience something, and it's like, wow. But can you imagine just being able to just step in and just abide in it?
Comes back to that circuit, hey, where if we can, where the Godhead is the source of our circuit, but it's all these things that stand in the way of us entering in or allowing the flow through of his power and whatever he has available for us in our heavenly bank, those spiritual blessings in heavenly places, to be able to flow through to our spirit, our soul, and our body for what we need in our process in life.
Yeah. And if I may say this again, that is why I'm so passionate about the journey for Fontes and this holistic healing essentials that I'm launching later this month, and the other things. It's part of my journey to make somebody else's easier by the things that I've discovered to deal with certain things. Because these are things that stand in our way of having a different and a better life experience and entering into peace and love, to understand what love actually is, not as the world says it is, but what Jesus says it is. And that perfect peace, and being able to enter into his presence, to break through. There must be easier ways, and that to me is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to bring easier, different ways to the table. And that's what you're doing as well. Create awareness so that we can understand who we are.
And deal with those things, that we need to deal with. So Denise, just from a physical perspective and a practical perspective, how do we help our endocrine system?
Okay, so natural supplements that are really amazing is ashwagandha. I'm a major fan of ashwagandha because it's an adaptogen. Specifically also when you go through menopause, it's great to have ashwagandha at hand. Rhodiola is one of the others. Sometimes people tolerate the one better than the other one. So those are great things to give your body. Essential oils, fennel, geranium, clary sage help with it, the balancing the hormones. They are nice to diffuse or just apply to your body. Peppermint for hot flashes. The thyroid likes selenium. You can get that in Brazil nuts. Frankincense and myrrh, it helps to deal with inflammation and stress for the thyroid specifically. Then eat better. Eat the food in season. There's a reason why we have certain foods, certain seasons, why you can't get everything at every time. It's not made. Your body doesn't need the same stuff in summer that it does in winter. So eat the food in season. Oh, here's my note on Asia. Menopause systems, almost nothing because they have less sugar, no refined food, fish, veggies. Yeah, those are the type of things that they have that is different to maybe what we do because we just pile on the sugar. Exercise is important. Walking is exercise. Movement is exercise. Clean water and structured water. I don't know if you've had that where you drink water and you stay thirsty even though you've drank it. And even though you've added the salt, you stay thirsty. It's to structure your water. And it is as simple as swirling this. It's structuring your water. And water can take imprints. That's why they've used it in war situation to poison waters. I think we've mentioned that. And they subtract the poison, but the water has the memory of it, and people died because of the water.
Fascinating.
So that means I can affect this. I can affect it by what I say. I can affect it by what I think. So maybe address water differently. And I find that if I structure my water together with salt, blessing my water, my hydration levels are better. Simple things like that.
It's a wonderful.
It sounds woohoo and way out, but there's actual science behind these things.
There is science around that. If you're going to look and find it, there is science around that.
Yeah. So those are kind of final notes. Evening primrose is also a good supplement. But then also getting the whole body back into balance again. Dealing with the candida, dealing with the parasites. Those are just your entry-level stuff that we need to deal with. Deal with candida, deal with parasites, and yes, we have them. If you go test, I'll be surprised if there's a person walking on this planet that doesn't have parasites. Deal with those things, get the kidneys detox, get the liver detox. That's a good order to do it in. And don't do something that's harsh on the body. Don't do a harsh detox. Just be gentle and find different build protocols in, different dealing with candida protocols, whether it's whatever it is that you do. Oils, essential oils are part of that journey, the ashwagandha. There are many things that you can do in a natural way before. And I think if you have many of those, if you have those 4 things under control, then look at what's left over with this whole endocrine system, because that causes a lot of havoc, those 4 things not being in balance and being unhappy with what they have to deal with.
And the Bible says in Isaiah 4 verse 6 that my people perish for lack of knowledge. So knowledge is power. And in these short talks, it's impossible to cover everything that needs to be covered. But if you are interested in taking better care of yourself, there is so much information out there now. And to actually action that, to go and do your research, see what's good for you, see what products are good for you, utilize products that you know about, like Fontis that is available. And just, we need to be good stewards because our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, right? And if we defile it, it's going to be destroyed. And so we defile it by things we do, by the things we are putting into our bodies, onto our bodies, what we're speaking, what we're thinking in our heart. We don't actually realize that all of this is compromising us. It's an unseen process that's happening around us. We're disturbing the frequencies in our body when we're thinking negative thoughts, when we're speaking negative things. So really it's this holistic thing of be careful, pay attention. What are you putting in? What are you letting out? What are you letting in? With your ears, what's going on in your mind? What are you doing with your body? And we're the only ones that can take ownership of our bodies, take stewardship of our bodies. Nobody else can do that for us. So we need to take the responsibility of finding out more. And as people are moving more holistic, towards the holistic methods, there is so much information out there. So there's actually no excuse, for us, because there is loads and loads of information out there.
Yeah.
So,
and that can be overwhelming, but then choose one thing that jumps out at you and just do that one thing consistently for a while, and then you add something else and do that consistently, and you go from there. You don't have to incorporate everything at the same time, because you can give up.
Focus on something you're really struggling with, and then go and do, like, let's say you're struggling with fatigue. Go and do your research. What causes fatigue? What can I do to create more energy? What am I doing that's sapping my energy? Just do that one thing. It's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So take it in bite sizes and work on your health, work on your spiritual health, because the word is also healing. Spending time in God's presence is healing. Taking communion is healing. It's something that's really important. Because it's a symbol of what Jesus did for us on the cross, and to receive that into our bodies. I always pray that when I take my communion, I just receive into my spirit, my soul, and my body what was made available to me on the cross. And I feel it should be a daily practice, because it's not only a reminder of what Jesus did for us, but it's also a healing practice. It's just one of those things that can heal our bodies, when we just take that focus time and see ourselves receiving what Jesus made available to us.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's a different form of medicine, actually. If you take the religion out of it, it's a different form of medicine.
That's right. So, Denise, is there anything you want to say in closing?
No, I think we've covered it all. I was trying to look at my notes, but I think we kind of sort of worked through all of it.
Okay, so I know our talks always seem to go in different directions. So we start with the endocrine system, but we always come back to the spiritual stuff, because it's so good. Yes, I just thank you for the time that you've given today, and I always enjoy our talks, and I just pray that whoever's listening was blessed by this, and that they'll find some inspiration, maybe get some answers, and then also go and do your own research into this and see how you can help yourself just to feel better, on a spiritual level, on a wellness level, and ask God to show you the blocks. What are the blocks? What is compromising your system? What's compromising your endocrine system? What is happening in your body that you need to focus on? What is happening in your soul that you need to focus on? And what is happening in your spirit that's disrupting your circuit? So spend time with God and ask him those questions. He will answer.
And thank you so much, Tammy. It's always, as you say, it's a privilege. It's an honor. Thank you for inviting me back and for us doing this. I absolutely love it. So thanks for your time too.
Yeah, thanks.
And to everybody listening.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in again to us, and look forward to our next podcast that will be coming up soon. But I pray this blessed you, and we just release God's blessing upon you, and that this information will touch your heart and bring about fruit or curiousness or something that needs to happen. So thank you once again, Denise.
Thank you, Tammy.